Linguistic is a scientific study of structure and development language in general or of particular languages. The study of linguistics had known as the umbrella or the core of particular study. Hello everyone, my name is Nur Adianza, a student from University of Esa Unggul and part of English Education Department. And in this video, I will discuss about a particular branch of linguistics, and that is language acquisition and the challenge of learning a foreign language. First of all, I want to give you a general meaning and the definition of language acquisition and when do we obtain the skills of acquiring language. So, what is language acquisition? Well, according to Cambridge Dictionary, language acquisition is the natural process which people and especially children become able to understand and speak a language without having lesson or learning rules. Language acquisition usually starts at a very young age when children develop some motorics called language acquisition device. A language can be formed in children basically depends on several elements that can affect their understanding of the language. The element that I'm saying previously that can affect them is first, environments, second is age, and lastly is motivation. And also, children, when in the middle of the process of developing their own languages, they have their own things called interlanguage. Well, interlanguage exactly means that children have their own understanding of their own grammatical and phonemics. And the steps of acquiring language in children consists of only two pivotal steps that can help to create their interlanguage. What is the steps? First step is acquiring the sound without knowing the meaning. Children usually form their first word without knowing the meaning first. Sound comes first and then the meaning comes last. Children usually form their first word according to the sound they frequently hears. One of the cases that I always hear about is that if both parents are, let's say, Indonesian or any other region, but speak English throughout the day, there might be a chance that the kids can speak English very fluently rather than the native language that he was born to. And the second step after that is understanding the meaning. And by meaning, I'm not talking about a philosophical level of meaning, not in a philosophical term or symbolic term. No. I'm talking about children usually form their own meaning based on the information that they gather on their own. For example, children know the meaning of spicy but cannot define what spicy or other terms that affiliated with the taste of spicy. Thus, children call everything that tingles their mouths is spicy. Like for example, if you give kids a candy that is sour candy, but the kids don't still have the motorics or never heard the word sour, so the kids only use the word spicy to describe the taste. And while children having only two steps in learning language acquisition, what about us, an adult or student that's already passed their language acquisition device, functionality in learning foreign language, especially people with current disability? So now in today's video, I want to focus on how a person overcome the struggle of acquiring languages, especially those with dyslexia. Today's subject video that I would choose to be discussed is titled Dyslexia and Foreign Languages from the Hampton Road Show. Well, the video here shown an interview of Jared Setnar, the upper school division director who works at the Cheapskate Bay Academy that focuses on learning second or foreign language, and he will share his experience about teaching those who have dyslexia. Before we dissect the video, I want to give you guys a brief explanation of what is actually dyslexia. Well, according to web image or web search that I found after surfing through the internet, dyslexia is a learning disorder that involves difficulty reading due to problems of identifying speech, sound, and learning, and how they relate to letter or words. Well, sounds very complicated, right? Well, to put it simply, dyslexia is a reading disability that makes the people suffer from the disorder having trouble because their eyes manipulate the words in front of them. Well, it's sort of like maybe dyslexia people only saw doctors' handwriting instead of a crystal clear font in their text. Now, let's take a look at the video and hear what Jared has to share to us about how a dyslexic person learns a foreign language and how they overcome their struggle based on his opinion. That's the video.
Many folks might say a child with dyslexia probably can't learn a foreign language. Is that true?
No, that's not true. Dyslexic students have a difficult time learning a foreign language, basically because of their lack of phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is, you can think of it as the building blocks of language, how sound comes together to form words. And dyslexics usually are not so good at that, which is why if you've met a dyslexic person, chances are they're not the best speller in the world, because that's where that whole phonemic awareness comes into play. So it's more difficult for dyslexics to learn a foreign language, but it's certainly not impossible.
Jared mentions that dyslexia are not the major difficulties of learning languages. Well, sort of like a language blockade, he say. There, he also mentioned something called phonemic awareness, which means that dyslexic people are more familiar to a sound rather than a words, which is why, according to Jared, dyslexic people are not the best speller. Now, let's take a look again at the video and see his statement about how is dyslexic people learning foreign language.
People with dyslexia, there are different degrees of it. So what works for one might not work for another. So there are some dyslexic students who do have a problem with English and learning the rules of it. And then when they do Spanish or German, they have a much easier time with it because the rules are more straightforward.
And consistent.
And consistent, which we don't have in English.
Right.
So many dyslexic students like that, and they succeed in that foreign language. What's also important is just the foreign language itself, because of the auditory processing of dyslexic students, meaning how they hear sound as well. So how the language sounds is also important. There are some students that just take better to Spanish or to German because of the sound, as where French is a little bit more difficult for dyslexic students because it sounds so different from English. So really, like many things with dyslexia, it's really on an individual basis, and you really kind of have to shop around because languages are different, and what might work for one might not work for another.
All right.
In the video there, Jared also explains that the struggle also did not come from the language user, but also the language itself. Some languages are more straightforward than the others, and even some languages does not even contain any grammatical rules in English, such as English, I mean. Making other languages like German or French is easier to understand by dyslexic people because of the phonemic awareness and because of there are no rules that is bound that we need to be followed. All in all, in my opinion, people with dyslexia can still learn a foreign language and overcome their struggle by having a learning style that requires them not just to speak, but also spell the words. Well, in my opinion at least, the implemented learning styles for them that suffer or them that has dyslexia for them could be as far as explaining the grammatical rules in a code instead of a word-by-word translation. At least that's my piece of advice. And that's what I gathered from Jared Sandler's video. And that is all from me today. I hope from this video you can get new insight from the new information that I just shared you today. If you like this video, you can share it to your friends. And I see you again next time in the next video. Bye-bye.